Do you eat fish? Do you ever go fishing? You know, a boy and a father go out on a boat on a lake and catch and eat some nice fish. Well, if you do that, you are, and I'm sorry, dumber than dog shit. Because a new study has come out showing that fish from U.S. lakes and rivers are awful. They're awful. They're awful. Eating one fish from U.S. lakes or rivers likened to drinking months' worth of contaminated water? So everyone say thank you to corporate America for this one. Corporate America said, I will not be told by the government to dump my toxins in any other place besides the rivers. And now, everything is contaminated. Everything is contaminated. It's over. It's done. We got PFAS all over the fucking place. So, I'm just saying, if you are eating freshly caught fish, the freshly caught aspect does not mean it's good for you. In fact, it's horrible for you. It's horrible. Eating one freshwater fish caught in a river or lake in the United States is the equivalent of drinking a month's worth of water contaminated with toxic forever chemicals. Now, hey, if you want to poison yourself, that's fine. Feel free. But I would think twice before eating freshly caught fish. The invisible chemicals called PFAS were first developed in the 1940s to resist water and heat, and they're now used in items such as non-stick pans. If you have a non-stick pan, throw it in the garbage. Throw it in the garbage. Throw it in the garbage. Never buy non-stick pans. Never buy them. Throw them in the trash. Textiles, fire suppression foams, and food packaging. Food packaging, huge problem. Fire suppression foams, that's one of the best arguments in favor of PFAS, but it's still a problem. We need to develop better alternatives. But the indestructibility of PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, means the pollutants have built up over time in the air, soil, lakes, rivers, food, drinking water, and even our bodies. There have been growing calls for stricter regulation of PFAS, which have been linked to a range of serious health issues, including liver damage, high cholesterol, reduced immune response, and several kinds of cancer. Reduced immune responses, isn't that interesting? I wonder if that affects how bad COVID is nowadays. To find out PFAS contamination in locally caught fish, a team of researchers analyzed more than 500 samples from rivers and lakes across the United States between 2013 and 15. The median level of PFAS in the fish was 9,500 nanograms per kilogram, according to a study published in the journal Environmental Research. Nearly 3/4 of the detected forever chemicals were PFOS, one of the most common and hazardous of the thousands of forms of PFAS. Eating just one freshwater fish equaled drinking water with PFOS at 48 parts per trillion for a month, the researchers calculated. Last year, the Environmental Protection Agency lowered the level of PFOS in drinking water considered safe to 0.02 parts per trillion. So 0.02 parts per trillion, 48 parts per trillion. I mean, that's crazy. Now, I don't eat fish. I'm against seafood. I don't eat them, okay? That's just not for me. I think they smell bad, they taste bad, they're garbage, and, the health benefits of them, let's be honest, right? Overblown. Fish is trash. But there is no safe to eat fish in this country. This is why I say being a vegetarian is easy, because meat in this country is also poisoned. with antibiotic use, with broken down, horribly digested branched-chain amino acids, with diseases, viruses. Meat is trash in this country. It is terrible for you in this country. If you live in New Zealand or some shit, or Japan, I know that they have a different situation with the regulations on the meat industries there. Now, I'm still morally opposed to eating meat, but eating meat or fish in the United States makes you an idiot. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Like, this shit is so bad for you. It's crazy. It's crazy. And now, again, you gotta watch out, because almost everything is poisoned, right? You know, vegetables, a lot of vegetables, depending on where you get them from, get sprayed by pesticides, right? So we can't really escape the carcinogenic poisoning of our bodies by the United States government. They have decided they want to kill us for corporate money. And so I say you got to do harm reduction. Fish is really fucking bad for you. Meat as well, really fucking bad for you. Let's keep going. The total PFAS level in the freshwater fish was 278 times higher than what has been found in commercially sold fish, the study said. That's interesting. David Andrews, a senior scientist at the nonprofit Environmental Working Group, which led research, told Agence France Presse he grew up catching and eating fish. I can no longer look at the fish without thinking about PFAS contamination. Now, there are two problems with commercially sold fish versus freshwater fish. Commercially sold fish are not nearly as nutritious, outside of PFAS, as freshwater fish or wild fish. Why? Because farmed fish do not have a diet that is high in nutrients, right? So one of the ways that, for example, salmon is one of the best nutrient profiles for fish. Wild caught salmon, right? Farmed salmon almost has no nutrient profile because they're farmed. So commercially sold fish is most often farmed fish, which is also not good for you, right? But now we're finding out that wild fish, which theoretically was better for you, is now even worse than we thought because of PFAS. So I say avoid all the fish. That's my solution. The findings were, quote, particularly concerning due to the impact on disadvantaged communities that consume fish as a source protein or for social or cultural reasons, he added. I love the idea that, like, there's a cultural reason behind chronically poisoning yourself. Now, I get it, on a holiday or whatever, you drink some moonshine, it's part of your culture. That's one thing. I'm not... But, like, imagine if it was like, yeah, it's my culture. I just drink, I drink half an ounce of gasoline every day. It's my culture. My culture raised me. What? I don't give a fuck about your social culture. I don't give a shit about your culture. If your culture is advocating poisoning children, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if you're part of an indigenous community. I don't give a fuck what community you're part of. If your culture is, let's poison some kids, that's a stupid fucking culture, which is why I think American society as itself is a culture that probably should go away as well. I think American culture is basically founded on child abuse. We market candy to kids, for example. That causes them to become drug addicts, right? We give kids unhealthy amounts of medication that don't actually do anything, right? We give kids viruses and illnesses. So I think we got a whole culture around child abuse that we really need to look at. So again, I don't give a fuck about anyone's cultural reasons. If you're poisoning children or yourself, I mean, you can poison yourself. I don't give a shit. But if you're poisoning kids, I don't give a fuck about your culture. Get the fuck off. So anyway, let's keep going. The research makes me incredibly angry because companies that made and used PFAS contaminated the globe and have not been held responsible. And guess what? They will never be held responsible. Patrick Byrne, an environmental pollution researcher at the UK's Liverpool John Moores University, not involved in the recent research, said PFAS are probably the greatest chemical threat the human race is facing in the 21st century. Second is probably microplastics. Right? You got PFAS, you got microplastics. Whoa! I'm glad we use plastic that's laced with forever chemicals in our food packages. What a great world! The government really cares. The Food and Drug Administration, they really care, right? This is an important study because it provides the first evidence for widespread transfer of PFAS directly from fish to humans. Andrews called for much more stringent regulation to bring an end to all non-essential uses of PFAS. I'm willing to say that there is no essential use of PFAS. We can develop an alternative for all of this shit. But is anyone going to listen to this guy? No. Is the government going to do anything? No. Are they going to enforce anything? Even if the government passed a law, are they going to enforce it at all? No. Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden submitted a proposal to ban PFAS to the EU's European Chemicals Agency on Friday. The proposal, one of the broadest in EU's history, comes after the 5 countries found that PFAS weren't adequately controlled and block-wide regulation was needed, the agency said in a statement. You know, moving to Europe is looking pretty good right now. So, anyway, there you go. I wanted to talk about this today. Just thought I would. You know, everybody, I've said this before, that I think it's over. I think we're watching the dominoes fall. I mean, even if we reversed course, it would take literally centuries and like dozens of generations for PFAS and microplastics to go away. You know, if we stop now. But we're not. I saw a number the other day that said that like 50% of all plastic in the world was created in the last 15 years. Feel free to fact check me on that. I read that somewhere in passing, so, you know. But, so anyway, my opinion is we're fucked. And to be very clear, just so that no one misunderstands me, this is not the good kind of fucking that involves a dick in an orifice, okay? Or around or on or anywhere near it. It is not that kind of fucking. Is that graphic? Did I just demonetize myself? Fuck. Anyway. We're getting fucked really badly. Okay? And there's really nothing we can do to escape. The best thing we can do is harm reduction. That's the best thing we can do. Harm reduction. Harm reduction. We can't eliminate. We can't do harm elimination in our lives, but we can reduce the harm that capitalism's grip has on our souls, everybody. Eat healthy. I'm serious. And I'm not talking about, like, you know, going to McDonald's and ordering the salad. Ha ha ha. I'm talking about every food that you eat. You need to do extensive research on every food that you eat. Every brand that you buy, extensive research. Now, I have 2 axes that I use for my food choices. I have the health axis and the ethics axis. But I would say that health is weighted higher than ethics. So, for example, if it is healthier for me to purchase food from a company that I know treats their workers like trash, I personally would rather do that than buy unhealthier food, even if they have good worker practices. Now, usually health and ethics are on the same spectrum. Usually companies that treat their workers like shit also have shitty products. That's usually the case. But, you know, when you start researching brands, you really find out that most brands are criminal, really. I mean, Nestle, for example, they just petitioned the Supreme Court to allow them to use child slavery in the production of their products. But if I found out that Nestle's products were the healthiest products around, you know what? That's the decision I would make. But Nestle products are trash, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, most people know that Nestle petitioned the Supreme Court to allow child slavery. Do most people know that? I don't think so. Right? So this is why I say everything you buy, just go to the grocery store, buy whatever you normally buy. But before you eat anything, take a picture of your cart, right? Write down all the labels, the brands, the products, and just spend a couple hours on the computer and just look them all up. You know, what is this brand of celery? How do they get their products? What is this, you know, whatever. Like, just look them up. Because it goes a long way. And so that's why, again, advocate for harm reduction. And it's like, also, think about it from this perspective. 95% of Americans don't eat fruits or vegetables. So think about the advantage you'll have in society if you take care of yourself. Hey, I'm just, whatever I need to do to get the message out. If you're the most selfish motherfucker on planet Earth, you should still eat healthy. Because it's going to put you ahead in the race compared to 95% of people. 93% of Americans are chronically metabolically ill, which means they're essentially suffering from multiple clusters of symptoms that mostly include things like inflammation, which reduces the efficacy of your immune system, causes things like neurological degeneration, brain fog, for example. That's 93% of Americans. So I say, if you do your best to reduce the harm in your diet, I don't get, like, whatever reason you need. Health, if you don't give a shit about health, but you give a shit about money, you will make more money if you're healthier because you will be able to think better and you'll be able to be more proactive in gaining, I don't know, financial freedom or whatever the fuck. Whatever excuse that you need to come up with, I don't care. Ethics, if you're all about ethics, you don't give a shit about your personal health and you want to go vegan, you know, just because of the morals, I'm in. Go for it. Whatever you need to do to convince yourself to reduce the harm that you do on a daily basis from your diet, because the average default in America is chronic drug addiction. 95% of Americans are drug addicts. That's a fact. And their drug of choice is processed food, junk food. That's a fact. 95% of Americans are drug addicts. So if that number seems offensive to you, if the reading of that number seems offensive to you, I don't know what to tell you. But it's the truth. And so if you can escape that 95% and go clean, I mean, it does a lot of good, let me tell you. I will tell this in a personal anecdote. Over the last couple of months, I mean, you know, as of a month ago, over the last couple of months, you know, I went on a little bit of a food bender. You know, I ate, you know, some pizza. You know, I had a little Taco Bell, you know, little bean burritos, you know, a couple of them. I had some candy. Halloween, man, I went on a candy bender. I was eating those, like, fucking sour-ass shits. Toxic waste, you know. So, you know, every once in a while, I think it's okay to go on a little bit of a candy bender. You know, just to get it out of your system. I'm not talking about perfect adherence, you know. No one needs to be 100% perfect all the time. It's unrealistic. It's unattainable. And if you strive for perfection, you're just going to be chronically depressed because you'll never reach perfection. You'll never be perfect. And then you're just going to be stressed all the time, which releases a lot of cortisol in your bloodstream, which is also doing a lot of harm. So if drinking a glass of wine every couple days is, you know, if that to you is the most manageable you can, it's better than being a fucking stress ball every day. Having that cortisol destroy your fucking goddamn body. Right? So I say this. You know, if you like meat, okay. If you want to eat meat, all right. I think it's dumb. But you don't need to eat meat every fucking day. Every fucking day. Like, I mean, that's a drug addiction. If you were drinking beer every day, that's an addiction. If you were eating McDonald's every day, it's an addiction. If you're eating candy every day, it's an addiction. If you're smoking cigarettes every day, it's an addiction. Meat is a drug. Now again, if you like it, if you like chicken wings, and you want to have chicken wings once a week, and that's your big thing, have at it. Because it's about harm reduction. It's about reducing the total harm. And trust me, you will feel better. Whatever high that you get when you're eating a cheeseburger, you're going to feel really good all the time. You're going to feel that high all the time once you stop, once you kick it. So my opinion, again, is, you know what? Schedule a bender every now and then. You know, I don't eat meat. I have no interest in meat. I think meat is garbage. I haven't eaten meat in like 4 years now, so I don't care about that. But every once in a while, every few months, I'll go on a candy bender. Last year, I had some other circumstances arise that made me lean into the bender a little bit more. But, you know, Halloween, I like to have like a week of Halloween where I'm just eating candy every day. Fuck it, whatever. Christmas time, I like to get drunk every day. I hate the holidays. But throughout the rest of the year, I try to be as healthy as I possibly can. You know, junk food should be like once a month, maybe. You know, I don't try to eat candy really at all. Normally throughout the year. Maybe my birthday is an exception, you know, some like holidays like Halloween. But like, you know, again, but it's all about harm reduction. Because if you strive for perfection and then you make a mistake, which you will, if you're trying to be perfect and you make a mistake, which you will make a mistake, you're only human, then you're going to feel like shit. Then the cortisol is going to fuck you up and then you're going to undo all the gains, right? So just throwing that out there. But anyway, just a little PSA.